The main auditorium of the Interstellar Academy shimmered in a soft aurora hue, its vaulted ceilings pulsing gently with ambient light. Columns of bioluminescent ivy trailed from the upper platforms, humming a faint chord of welcome as students from across the quadrant filed into the companion exhibition with companions in tow. It was meant to be a celebration of peace, a symbolic gesture of shared values among dozens of species: compassion, partnership, and trust. Everything about the event was curated to be soft, beautiful, and safe. A Karithi scholar floated in, trailing an orb of vapor beside him, a symbiotic gas life form that cooed melodically when touched by light. Next came a tall, crystalline xylanari, cradling a plum-colored scale bird whose feathers shimmered like oil on water. A Thassa child waddled forward, proudly carrying a woven basket. Inside, nestled among sponge leaves, chirped a glittering insect the size of a button, each of its 6 wings playing a different tone. The students gathered in a great circular arena, ringed with soft seating. Professors sat elevated above them, their robes glinting with institutional pride. Recorders blinked from the walls. One by one, the pets were presented. Yalu, a slender quintari with translucent skin, stood beside his creature, a floating ribbon beast that trailed pheromones, spelling phrases in the quintari tongue. "This is Ini," Yalu said, voice trembling with pride. "He is empathic and can learn languages through scent. My people gift these only to those entering adulthood." Murmurs of appreciation followed. Ini bowed mid-air, his undulating form spelling peace. Then Drelva, with her plume of feathers quivering in joy, showcased a miniature avian squid hybrid that nested in her crest and sang lullabies passed down for centuries. When she whispered a note, the creature echoed it back in perfect harmony, its 6 iridescent eyes blinking in affection. It was an endless procession of glittering scales, delicate wings, and telepathic resonance. The room buzzed with admiration and the universal language of affection. Until the main door rumbled open. It wasn't a loud sound. It didn't need to be. The change in pressure was enough. The air grew dense. The room fell silent. Every head turned as a human stepped through the archway, backlit by the corridor behind him. Alex walked with a slow, deliberate gait. His left hand gripped a reinforced carbon weave leash, connected to a harness so thick it looked more like tactical armor. And beside him, padded a nightmare wrapped in fur. The predator was massive, larger than any creature previously seen at the exhibition. Its head alone could engulf a smaller pet in a single bite. Golden eyes scanned the crowd with predatory focus, unblinking. Ears flicked. Muscles shifted beneath a dark coat that seemed too glossy to be natural. It walked close to Alex, each paw step a soft thud against the floor, claws retracted but present. The leash was taut. The silence shattered. One student screamed. A cage clattered as an insect pet launched itself into panic, scattering neon spores across its owner's robe. The Thassa child squealed and clutched her basket, eyes wide with horror. "Where did you get it?" a xylanari demanded, ducking behind his shimmering bird's hover cage. "This is not allowed," cried another, wings beating the air in a furious blur. "That thing could hunt us all in under a minute," someone shouted from the left tier. Alex stopped. His jaw clenched, his heart hammered in his ribs loud enough to feel it in his fingertips. The beast Grim stood beside him, unmoving but alert. "I know how it looks," Alex said, voice low but steady. "Please, let me explain." Professor Alrin, a senior faculty member with a reputation for rigid neutrality, floated down from the observation dais, robes trailing behind him like mist. "Mr. Chambers," he said, eyes fixed warily on Grim, "this exhibition is not a combat scenario. You've brought a predator into a peaceful gathering." Alex gave the leash a gentle tug. "Grim Saturday." "Grim was found abandoned when he was just a cub," Alex said. "My parents were working with an ecological repair team on old Earth. Poachers wiped out his pack. He was starving. They took him in." The murmuring returned, sharper this time disbelief layered over panic. "You raised it?" A violet-skinned being gasped, gripping his symbiote cage. "You didn't report it to a conservation authority?" Alex shook his head. "We tried. No one wanted the liability, said he'd never be fit for rehabilitation, so we raised him." Grim yawned. A long, low rumble emerged from his chest. His jaw split open to reveal fangs the length of Alex's fingers. One student collapsed with a squeak, his bioluminescent crest flickering erratically as he slumped into his seat. Professor Allren raised a hand. "Calm yourselves. Chambers, if you expect us to believe this thing is domesticated, we will need to see it." Alex nodded. "Of course, Grim. Sit." Grim was already sitting. His ears twitched at Alex's tone, waiting. "Stay." No movement. The tail, thick as a hoverbike's frame, coiled behind him like a resting python. "Come." Grim stood and walked, placing each foot with deliberate care. He approached Alex, then sat again, waiting. His breath fogged the air between them. The room was silent save for the soft panting of the beast. "Good," Alex said softly. He reached into a pouch and withdrew a thin strip of dried meat. He held it out. Gentle. Grim extended his head and took it slowly, delicately between his teeth. Not a scratch on Alex's hand, not even a graze. Another pause. Then a ripple of confused awe. "He's obeying," someone whispered. "This is not natural," another alien hissed. "It's conditioning, programming." "He's not a robot," Alex replied, his tone sharp but controlled. "He's alive. He just trusts me." Grim turned to look at the room. His golden eyes swept across the students and their trembling companions. "Then you are reckless," a tall spine being barked. "You brought death into a peace hall. You endangered us all." Alex's shoulders stiffened. "I didn't bring death. I brought proof." "Of what?" "That danger and loyalty aren't opposites." A cage in the far corner clanged. One of the symbiotes had glitched, letting out a high-pitched screech. Instantly, the room was chaos again. Creatures flared, hissed, or bolted in confusion. Grim moved. Not to attack. He stepped forward and placed himself between Alex and the direction of the noise, his head lowered, eyes narrowed, shoulders tensed. He didn't growl. He waited. Alex whispered, "It's okay." Grim exhaled and eased back. Gasps echoed. "He protected you," someone murmured. "He didn't attack," another whispered. Alex gently rubbed the side of Grim's neck. The beast leaned into it like a cat. "He doesn't just listen," Alex said. "He watches, he thinks, he cares." Professor Allren's voice was quiet now. "He would kill for you?" "Only if I let him," Alex said, "and I won't." Eyes locked on Grim. Not just fear now, something else. Wonder. The question spread without being spoken. What kind of species raises a killer to be a guardian? Alex stood straighter. Grim leaned against his leg, calm again. Whatever this exhibition had been meant to prove, it had changed. The silence that settled over the auditorium wasn't peace. It was the thin, stretching quiet that comes just after a lightning strike, when the thunder has passed, but the air still remembers what it sounded like. Grim sat motionless at Alex's side, every strand of his midnight coat shimmering faintly in the ambient light. His ears twitched occasionally, but otherwise he was carved stone. Alex kept his hand on Grim's harness, not holding tight anymore, just resting it there. The weight of it grounded him. The eyes of 100 students pressed in like heat. Professor Allren cleared his throat and gestured toward the central display platform. "Mr. Chambers, if you would, take a position there. Your entry has significantly altered the exhibition's tone. But the companion exhibition is not a military tribunal. It is meant to explore interspecies relationships. Your case, however unconventional, is relevant." Alex didn't move for a second. Not until Grim stood up first, then began walking before him, leading the way. The floor lights adjusted automatically, brightening with each of Grim's steps, casting long shadows that stretched like claws. Alex followed. Heartbeat calm now, but only just. They reached the center. The students remained at the perimeter, an uneven circle of wide eyes, puffed feathers, jittering tentacles, and flickering glows. Some had withdrawn behind their companions' containment fields. A few whispered with professors in hushed tones, but none had left. The tension had changed. It was still fear, but now it was tangled with curiosity. Grim lay down, forepaws crossed, head held high. A long-fingered Kinari professor stood next. Her voice clicked in her throat, translated by her collar. "Chambers, This species its designation? Alex nodded. He's a North American gray wolf, genetically speaking, but he's bigger. Grimm isn't entirely textbook. Whatever was done to his ancestors before the collapse, he's part of that legacy. He weighs around 240 pounds now, all muscle. A murmur moved through the crowd. One student near the back whispered, "That's heavier than a Zurach-class carrier drone." The Canary professor continued, "And you expect us to believe this creature is safe among others?" Alex tilted his head. "He's never harmed anyone. He's trained, socialized, and calm in crowds. He's been through full behavioral assessments, twice." That part, at least, wasn't a lie. The testing had been grueling. Reaction tests, sound response trials, simulated threat drills. One had involved a collapsing platform and a robotic figure dressed like a child. Grimm hadn't flinched until Alex gave the command. Still, he remembered how the veterinarians had huddled behind blast glass the whole time. "And what about injury?" another professor pressed. "You claim to have raised him. Was there any incident?" Alex hesitated, not because he didn't know the answer, but because the memory still throbbed in his collarbone when the weather changed. "When he was 8 months old," Alex said quietly, "he panicked during a thunderstorm. I was still learning how to work with him. I tried to calm him too fast." He pulled down the collar of his shirt slightly. A faint, jagged scar trailed from the top of his shoulder down toward his chest. "Fractured my clavicle. It took 10 weeks to heal. I couldn't lift my left arm above shoulder height for 3 months. Someone in the audience flinched. "But he stopped," Alex added. "The moment he realized it was me. He cried for days after. He wouldn't eat unless I was there. That was the last time he ever panicked near people." This wasn't the kind of story the aliens were used to hearing about Earth. They had files, charts, population histories. Not personal pain. Not the way a young predator could break something by accident, or the slow, grinding process of recovery and earned trust. The Thassa child from earlier stepped forward cautiously, her basket now cradled close to her chest. Her voice was almost too quiet for the translator to pick up. "Why didn't you just put him down?" Alex looked at her. His voice didn't rise. "Because fear isn't the same as failure." From the corner of his eye, he saw Grimm glance at him, a flick of an ear. That little movement, acknowledging the conversation, was like a boulder dropped in a still lake. Everyone noticed. The debate began. Students from 6 systems spoke at once, their cultural logic slamming against one another in a cascade of contradictions. The Xylanari argued it was unethical to bring a predator into a diplomatic forum. The Quintari insisted the bond was a unique triumph of interspecies coevolution. The tall, spined one Thurvek demanded Grimm be relocated to a bio-sealed unit immediately. Professor Alrin remained silent, letting it burn itself out. Then, a delicate voice cut through. A thin, silvery being from the cloud colonies stood up, blinking rapidly. I think it is terrifying, but also kind of beautiful." All heads turned. "He protects him," she said, motioning to Alex. "Without needing to be told. That's not programming, that's love. And if it can happen once..." Another student, one of the feathered Drelva, said, "But if he turns, he could kill 6 of us before security even arrives." Alex didn't deny it. "You're right, he could. But he doesn't, that's the point." Just then, another sharp noise cracked through the room. A portable perch collapsed. One of the feather serpents dropped, fluttering in alarm. Its scales flashed a danger pattern, blood-red pulses spiraling up its body. Before Alex could move, Grimm was already up. He didn't growl, he didn't charge. He stepped in front of Alex and went completely still. Every muscle coiled tight as rope, eyes locked on the serpent, tail low. No threat, just presence. A wall made of muscle and fur and instinct. The serpent hissed again, then calmed. It slithered back into its handler's arms, scales fading to a soft teal. Grimm returned to Alex's side. No command, no leash tug, he just knew. The hall had gone silent again, but it felt different now. Not fear. Respect. Slowly, cautiously, Professor Alren descended once more. He stood a full meter away from Grimm and looked directly into the animal's eyes. "If he were to disobey, you would stop him?" Alex nodded. "Yes, I know how. I have protocols, Verbal resets, physical signals, and if all else fails, I step between. Even if it means you'd be injured again? Alex didn't hesitate. Yes? Alren exhaled slowly. His fingers brushed his chin in thought. The board will deliberate, but it is possible this exhibition may not need to be disqualified. A stunned silence. Alex didn't smile. He was too tired for that. Grim leaned against his leg again, warm and solid, a gesture that meant, "You did good, now rest." "I understand if some of you are still afraid," Alex said, eyes sweeping the crowd. "Honestly, I am too, every day. He's not a pet, he's my responsibility. He depends on me to stay worthy of his trust." Someone whispered, "That's what makes it terrifying." Another answered, "That's what makes it extraordinary." A soft chiming sound echoed from the walls. The companion exhibition had officially ended. But no one moved. They just watched the boy and his beast, standing calm in a ring of fear, with nothing between them but understanding. The walk back to the waiting hall took longer than it should have, not because of distance, just hesitation. Every few steps, Alex heard the soft whisper of alien languages stutter behind him, as if they weren't sure whether to flee or follow. Grim padded beside him, utterly relaxed now that the formal presentation had ended. He sniffed occasionally at discarded food wrappers or strange scents wafting from the alien pets still being gathered, but never tugged the leash, never strayed. His golden eyes flicked upward toward Alex once, checking, before resuming his forward focus. When they reached the waiting corridor, Alex found a bench against the far wall and sat down slowly. The weight in his chest hadn't eased yet. His shoulder still ached with that old memory scar, and tension made it throb. Grim lay down beside the bench and rested his head on Alex's boot. The position made it impossible for anyone to approach without stepping directly into Grim's line of sight. Alex didn't command it. Grim just did it. He reached down and scratched behind Grim's ear. "You didn't even flinch at that feather snake thing," he whispered. Grim's tail thumped once. "Show off." The quiet was broken by approaching footsteps, 3 distinct rhythms, 2 lighter, 1 heavier. Alex glanced up. It was Yalu, the Quintari student with the scent language ribbon beast, accompanied by Drelva of the feathered crest and the tall, severe-looking Thurvek, who still regarded Grim with something between disgust and caution. Drelva spoke first. He really didn't try to attack the serpent, even when it postured. Alex nodded. "He never goes first." Yalu stopped a few steps away. His ribbon beast Aini hovered at shoulder height, releasing a slow, cautious wave of blue scent. Curiosity. "You're not trained for this kind of handling. You said yourself you're not a behaviorist, so how did you do it?" Alex paused, choosing his words. "You ever take care of someone who doesn't know how to be safe?" The 3 aliens looked at each other, unsure. "I don't mean physically dangerous," Alex added. "I mean someone who's been hurt too badly, too young. You can't just shout commands. You can't dominate them. You show up. You build the trust, brick by brick. You let them see they're not alone anymore." Drelva blinked. "That's how you raise traumatized juveniles." Alex raised his eyebrows slightly. "Exactly." Yalu frowned, his glowing skin dimming. "But he's an apex predator." Alex gestured at Grim's enormous form. "So were we. Once." Thurvek finally spoke, arms crossed tight. "You could have killed us all. One mistake, one moment of instinct, and we'd be filing casualty reports." Alex didn't bristle, he just nodded. "I know. Every day, I know." "That's not responsible," Thurvek pressed. "That's insane." Alex looked up at him. So's walking out onto a collapsing glacier to save a trapped drone scout, or running back into a burning habitat because a stranger might be inside, or adopting a predator cub when the alternative was watching it starve in the cold. Yalu shifted uneasily. "But those are emergencies. They're temporary." "No," Alex said softly. "They're who we are. We adapt, even when it's dangerous, especially when it is." "Aya." For a moment no one replied. Then Drelva sat carefully on the edge of the bench opposite him, her feathers ruffled with uncertainty. "I don't think we see danger the same way you do." Alex gave a weak laugh. "No, you really don't." He didn't mean it as arrogance, but it landed like a challenge. Before anyone could respond, a chime echoed overhead. A synthesized voice announced, "Judges reconvening in 20 standard minutes. All participants return to the observation ring." Yalu and Drelva stood. Thurvek lingered a moment longer, eyes boring into Alex like they could wring some other truth out of him. But in the end, he said nothing and turned away. Once they were gone, Alex leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "They think we're suicidal," he muttered. Grim huffed. Another voice startled him. "They're not completely wrong." Professor Alren stood near the corridor's entrance, hands folded behind his back. He was alone. Alex didn't reply right away. Alren continued. "Your exhibition has stirred more philosophical debate than any in the last 12 cycles. Most companions here were bred or bonded over centuries of refinement. Yours is raw." "Yeah," Alex said quietly. "I figured that out." "Do you believe," Alren asked, walking slowly forward, "that your relationship with Grimm is normal?" Alex looked down at the fur, now splayed over his boots. "No, but I think it could be." Alren studied him for a long moment. "Why not choose something safer?" Alex looked up. "Because he didn't get to choose what he was born as, but I got to choose what I'd be to him." Alren didn't move. Then, to Alex's shock, he sat carefully on the bench beside him. Grimm's ears flicked, but he didn't rise. Alren nodded toward the beast. "He watches everything, even now." "Yeah." "He would die for you." "Yeah," Alex said again, much quieter. Alren's voice took on a different tone, soft, but edged with professional curiosity. "Would you die for him?" Alex stared forward for a long time. Then, "That's not how it works." "Explain." "It's not about dying. It's about staying. When he panicked as a cub, I didn't run. When I was injured, I didn't push him away. I didn't make him fear himself. That's how you raise something powerful. You give it a reason to protect, not destroy." Alren said nothing. Then Grimm raised his head. Alex followed his gaze. The hall monitors lit green. "Time to return." Alren stood and smoothed his robe. "They may not understand you, but some of them will remember this day for the rest of their lives." Alex stood too. "That's not why I came." "Why did you?" Alex looked at Grimm, who stood now, stretching with a low grunt. "Because I wanted them to know it's possible." Alren nodded once, slowly. "That might be more dangerous than any tooth or claw." And then he turned and left. The return to the arena was different. Quieter. The chaos of earlier had faded into a strange humming tension. Grimm walked at Alex's side again, but this time, the students stepped back, not in fear, but in deference. A few bowed slightly. One raised a hand in greeting. A Karithi child offered a glowing petal from her song plant. Grimm sniffed it. Did not bite. At the center of the arena, the judges sat again. Alren stood before them. After considerable discussion, the judging council has reached a conclusion. While the presence of an apex predator at the companion exhibition challenges every precedent, the creature has demonstrated restraint, obedience, and protection of its bonded partner. Whispers rippled. "In light of this," Alren continued, "we will not revoke Mr. Chambers' participation. However, future exhibitions will include revised criteria for species safety thresholds." There was a pause. Then Alren added, "Let the record show. No participant sustained injury during the event. No companion was harmed. And a bond was witnessed that transcends genetic nature." Alex stood still, unsure if this was victory or parole. A slow, hesitant wave of clapping, talons tapping, fins slapping, emitters blinking rose around the ring. Grimm remained motionless, except for a tiny wag of his tail. The moment passed. The event was over, but the shape of the silence that followed had changed. Not fear. Reverence. The station's simulated night settled over the Interstellar Academy like a dimmed breath. Lights along the corridors lowered to cool hues, soft audio dampeners absorbing every footfall into silence. The companion exhibition had ended hours ago, but its reverberations hadn't. Not in the halls, not in the dorms, and certainly not in the central database, which had logged no less than 6,042 flagged debates, memos, and security protocol amendments within the first cycle after Grimm's appearance. Alex didn't return to his assigned dorm wing right away. Too many eyes, too many whispers. He didn't want to be met with applause or protests. Instead, he found an out-of-the-way training room with padded floors, dim lighting, and, most importantly, a reinforced entrance Grimm could pass through. The wolf prowled the perimeter of the room first, sniffing the edges, checking each corner as if mapping it. When satisfied, he circled once more and lay down facing the door. Alex eased himself down beside him, back against the cool wall. His shoulder ached, not from injury this time, just fatigue. The emotional kind, the kind that pooled behind his ribs and made it hard to breathe once the adrenaline wore off. He drew his knees up, arms resting over them. Grimm turned his head and nudged him once in the side. "Yeah," Alex muttered, rubbing his temple. "You did great, I'm just tired." Grimm exhaled, a long, slow breath that rumbled softly through the floor. He rested his head on Alex's thigh. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Then came a soft chime. Alex looked up, not the door this time. A proximity ping from the hall, followed by a gentle knock, the kind meant to announce presence without force. He stood. Grimm followed, ears forward. When Alex opened the door, he was surprised to find not a professor or a security officer, but Drelva. She was alone, her feather crest folded tight to her skull, indicating nervousness. She looked at Grimm first, then at Alex. "Can I come in?" Alex nodded and stepped aside. Grimm remained at his side but sat down, tail still. Drelva entered slowly, careful not to make sudden moves. She studied the room for a moment, then settled on the padded bench near the wall. Alex leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Didn't think you'd be visiting after earlier." She didn't speak right away. Her eyes remained fixed on Grimm. "When I was young," she began, "my sibling was attacked by a wild sky beast. It killed 2 of our nestmates before guardians arrived." Alex's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." "It wasn't your fault," she said, glancing at him now. "But that's what I see when I look at him. Every movement he makes, my spine remembers that day." Alex didn't interrupt. She continued, "I wanted to hate you. Today, for bringing that into a shared space, for exposing us to something so primal. But," her feathers trembled faintly. "But when that cage collapsed and you didn't yell, didn't panic, he just moved. Like instinct, but focused. I've never seen a predator choose protection over advantage." Alex knelt beside Grimm and ran a hand down his back. "He's not perfect," Alex said. "He'll never be a lapdog or a show animal. He'll always have edges. So will I, but edges aren't the same as threats." Drelva nodded slowly. "I've been taught my whole life to fear what has teeth." Alex looked up. "So was I." She tilted her head. "Then why didn't you?" He smiled faintly. "Because he had no one else, and neither did I." Grimm stirred, sensing the shift in tone, and padded closer to Drelva. She stiffened, breath catching, but she didn't back away. The wolf stopped 2 paces from her and sat, ears forward, watching. Slowly, carefully, she extended one feathered hand. It trembled in the air between them. Grimm leaned forward and sniffed it, then did something no one would have expected. He licked her palm once, softly. Her feathers flared in surprise but not alarm. "That," she whispered, "shouldn't be possible." Alex shrugged, voice quiet. "Neither should we." She pulled her hand back, cradling it like a fragile artifact. "You changed the exhibition, you'll know that, right? This won't be filed away like the others. It'll be studied, debated." "I didn't come to make a point," Alex replied. "I just came to show up. For him? That may be the most human thing I've ever heard," she said. Alex didn't deny it. After Drelva left, others came over the next day. One by one, not many, but enough. Yalu returned with Inni, who produced a scent that Alex couldn't interpret, but which Grimm leaned into as if it were familiar. A young Thassa student offered a gift, a scrap of woven vine embedded with security tags, meant to encode location and identity. Alex accepted it with thanks. And Thurvek? He didn't come. But Alex later found a single line entered anonymously into the companion exhibition's post-event archive. "Fear is not a weakness. It is a shape we build around the unknown. Some species hide behind it, others fill it with teeth. But today, I saw a species tame it and walk beside it. That was enough. The next week, Alex took Grimm for a supervised behavioral reassessment. It wasn't optional. A board member from the Galactic Safety Coalition sat in to observe. They tested proximity tolerance, command latency, restraint in simulated panic conditions. They repeated every test twice, then again with random variables. Grimm passed them all. And then came the final test. Alex was asked to step out of the observation area for exactly 3 minutes while Grimm remained inside the evaluation space, with a robotic mimic of a flighted alien companion, a species similar to Drelva's, deliberately chosen. The room had one stimulus, a burst of sound and a rapid movement from the drone meant to simulate stress. The board watched, silent, recording. Grimm stood still, tail low, ears up. He did not move toward the drone. He did not posture. He Saturday. When Alex returned, he gave one quiet command. Come. Grimm walked to his side and stopped there. The board chair recorded a full behavioral stability certification, the second in the Academy's history for a terrestrial origin apex predator. The first had died during testing. Weeks later, when the official records were released, the companion exhibition summary included an addendum. The presence of a terrestrial apex predator within the Interstellar Academy exhibition has redefined our understanding of trust bonds. What began as a disruption became a demonstration of interspecies coexistence, grounded not in obedience, but in loyalty, trauma, and mutual growth. The question is no longer whether danger can be avoided, but whether danger, when acknowledged and nurtured, can evolve into protection. Alex never asked for fame, neither did Grimm, but their names entered the Academy's history. And occasionally, as students passed through the corridors, they'd slow near the training rooms, not because of fear anymore, but because of the echo of heavy paws, of golden eyes, of a creature that could kill but chose not to, and the boy who walked beside it,